Hello history lovers and welcome back. Today I thought I would take you to Oatlands Palace. Oatlands Palace is actually quite an important palace, but I'm sure not many of you have heard of it, or if you have, it's ringing in your head as the place where Henry VIII got married to his fifth wife, Catherine Howard. And you're right, it is indeed that palace. So today I thought that we would explore Oatlands Palace and its rich history. In the heart of Weybridge used to stand a grand palace, quite literally fit for a queen. But the palace itself has been lost to us. The only part of the palace that still remains is a grand archway that is located in the middle of a housing estate. Much of the stone used to build Oatlands Palace was recycled stone from the Norman era. The stone was originally part of Chertsey Abbey, but when King Henry VIII broke with Rome and the dissolution of the monastery started in the 1530s, Chertsey Abbey was unfortunately one of the victims of the dissolution, and so its stone was transported from Chertsey to Weybridge for the new palace. King Henry VIII was a great lover of hunting, which may explain why there were so many palaces in Surrey at the time. Oatlands expanded his hunting estate known as the Honour of Hampton Court, and this estate extended from Hampton Court Palace out to Oatlands and then down to Nonsuch Palace, another palace that was built for Henry VIII that no longer exists. I'm seeing a pattern here. At its largest, the palace covered 14 acres of land. Unlike Hampton Court Palace, which was built for Thomas Wolsey, and then King Henry VIII decided that he wanted it, Oatlands Palace was built for King Henry VIII in 1537, although more specifically for his next queen, whoever she may be. At the time, it was looking like the palace would be for Anne of Cleves, but their marriage ending so fast, the palace actually was given to King Henry VIII's fifth wife and queen, Catherine Howard. The two married at the chapel at Oatlands Palace on the 28th of July 1540. The palace became so synonymous with Queen Catherine that one of the roads within the housing estates mentioned earlier is named after her. Queen Mary I withdrew to Oatlands Palace in the aftermath of her phantom pregnancy. Her sister, Queen Elizabeth I, also used the palace both prior and after becoming queen. As a lady, Elizabeth travelled to Oatlands to escape plague, and she returned to Oatlands in 1558 as queen for the hunting scene, as she, like her father, enjoyed the sport of hunting deer in Oatlands Park. I mean, it wasn't just Oatlands Park they enjoyed hunting. There was Windsor, Hampton Court, Nonsuch. The list goes on, but I thought I would just mention it before someone in the comments did. Moving on to the Stuart period, Oatlands Palace became a favourite of the first two Stuart queens, Anne of Denmark and Henrietta Maria. They made improvements to the palace, and Queen Anne commissioned Inigo Jones to design the Great Gate from the garden into the Oatlands Park grounds. Henrietta Maria, however, liked to use the palace as a country retreat. I can see why, what with Morrison's being within walking distance. Henrietta Maria's husband, King Charles I, was briefly imprisoned at Oatlands during the English Civil War. The palace was surrounded by the parliamentarian territory across most of Surrey and had been used to station Oliver Cromwell's troops. The palace fell out of favour in 1649 following Charles's execution in the January. The palace was then sold to Robert Turbridge for £4,000, which is about £414,068.80 in 2017's money, according to the National Archives currency converter. Turbridge then demolished the palace so he could fund a Republican army, and some of the bricks from the palace were then used to construct Weybridge Canal. What would I prefer, a palace or a canal? However, this isn't the end of Oatlands' story. In 1660, when King Charles II came to the throne, as part of the restoration following the dark times of Cromwell's rule, the Oatlands estate went back to the crown. However, in order to make money, Charles leased the land to noblemen. Now is the end of Oatland Palace's story. But, like a phoenix, the grounds were reborn and given new life. The 7th Earl of Lincoln built Oatlands House in the 1720s, which is about 500 metres east of where the original palace was located. The 8th Earl of Lincoln didn't do anything worthy of note, but the 9th Earl of Lincoln went on to transform the grounds. He added several things like a Gothic grotto and several rooms lined with stones, shells, and stalactites. He kept the palace gate that had been designed by Inigo Jones, but it now became more of a decorative piece. In 1789, the Duke Frederick Augustus of York brought Oatlands House, and his eccentric wife surrounded herself and the estate with all sorts of different animals. However, Oatlands House burnt down in 1794, but it was rebuilt, this time in the Gothic style, which was very popular at the time. The Duke and Duchess of York had an unhappy marriage, so the Duchess spent most of her life with her animals at Oatlands. After her death in 1820, the Oatlands estate was sold yet again, and parts of the old palace, mainly the middle and outer courts, became a commercial market garden. A column was erected in Weybridge in 1822 in honour of the late Duchess, and it is known as the York Column Monument. I have to admit I'm a little disappointed with myself, as I walked straight past it without even realising what it was. But then that's why I started my channel, not only to share my love and passion for history, but living in an area that is so full of history and casually just walking past things without even realising what they are or what they were. Whether it's a brick wall or a monument to a duchess who had a dog cemetery. It's about stopping to realise what you've got around you. The Duchess also joins Catherine Howard, as she too also has a road name in her honour in the area. Also, yes, the Duchess of York had a dog cemetery at Oatlands while she was there, but I think it's been moved several times. The Elmbridge Museum website says, ultimately it was here, in the grounds of her treasured home, that the Duchess laid her much-loved companions, Satan included, to rest. So, am I right in thinking that Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of York, named one of her dogs Satan?
Right.
I mean, either that or she's referring to the husband. Okay, back to history. Oatlands Palace eventually got a new owner, Edward Ball Hughes, who drastically reconstructed the house in 1827. At the moment, Oatlands Palace is starting to remind me of Trigger's broom.
I've maintained it for 20 years. This old broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time.
How the hell can it be the same bloody broom then?
Well, here's a picture of it. What more proof do you need?
The Oatlands estate was broke up into lots and sold at public auction in 1846 for development. James Watts Peppercorn redeveloped Oatlands House into the Southwestern Hotel in 1856. A large west wing was added, and the hotel is now a Grade 2 listed building, which roughly means that it's a structure that is protected by the law because it's a super old building that holds heritage and culture. Not the proper explanation, but for now it will do. During World War I, the hotel was used as a hospital, specifically for medical and tuberculosis cases and limbless men. The Mount Felix Hospital near Walton Bridge, not far from Oatlands, was overcrowded, and so extra space was required. When the war ended, it reopened as a hotel in 1919, and some of its famous guests include Emile Zola, Anthony Trollope, I do hope that's pronounced a different way. I don't know who this guy is, but I hope his name is Anthony Trollope, not Trollope. Anyway, and Edward Lear. It is now known as Oatlands Park Hotel, and traces of its rich history can still be seen in the hotel and on the grounds. But what about this brick wall? The thing that inspired this very video? Well, it is now known as the Tudor Archway, and is the only part of Oatlands Palace which remains above grounds. There are tunnels too, but I might do a separate video on that. The archway can be found in the aptly named Tudor Walk, and a plaque can be found on the side of the brick wall, showing its significance. However, if you weren't looking for it, I would argue that you would miss it. I would also argue that it should probably be on the alleyway side, not the residential side. Prior to the 1980s, the archway was bricked up, but it was opened in 1985 by Councillor Harry Cohen, the Deputy Mayor of the Borough of Elmbridge, on the 9th of November 1985, as part of the redevelopment of the surrounding area, which you can see as the houses have incorporated the arch into the way that they are designed. They feel like they include the arch and that they don't feel disjointed from it at all. Side note, I also found this wall that's also in the same area, and I personally think it looks remarkably like, and potentially, for me personally, I think it could be part of the original structure.
Really? I can't back that up.
I'm not an expert in bricks or archaeology, and I have no evidence to support my theory. It's just a theory. But if you did enjoy this video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. When I went into this video, I knew about the Tudor history and the fact it's now a hotel, but all the bits in between I never knew until I started digging, and I personally am going to delve more into the Duchess of York, as she sounds fascinating. Let me know if you'd like to see a video on her in the future, but until the next one, have a wonderful day.